That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. Sorry I missed you last week. If you didn't see my thoughts on Ray video, I was just really crazy busy last week. I'm really crazy busy this week too. Adulting is hard, people. I wish I could just sit around and read comic books. I have donuts in the other room. I just want to sit around, read comic books, eat donuts, drink soda, watch Star Trek, play video games. But I have a job, I have two jobs, and just, work sucks, and adulting sucks, and dealing with insurance companies sucks. But good news is I have a lot of comics this week to talk about. No trade again. I really need to finish Zero Hour. I read one issue of it, issue number 0, and I'm pretty sure it was the conclusion. So I'm going to start again with issue number 5 or 4 or whatever it is. And we'll see how that goes. But anyway. Let's start, as always, with the last thing I read this week, which was Star Wars number 14, which is part 5 of 6 for the Vader Down story arc. And joining me today is Danny the Lizard. So, this is continuing, and we start off with a really cool, fight between, or not start off with. We start off with Leia giving a really badass speech, and what's his name? Carbon, who's kind of like Admiral Akbar crossed over with General Grievous, beats my fanfiction. And he springs a trap. That's actually quite brilliant. There's like a whole standoff between him and Vader. And there's also a fight going on between the Black Wookiee that is a bounty hunter that's worked with Boba Fett. The Wookiee Black Kurestan intervened is his name. So we get a really cool fight between himself and Chewbacca, and they are just going to town at it. And Han Solo's kind of caught in the middle, and he's just not having any luck. And it's just, it's kind of everything that can possibly go wrong is going wrong right now. And it's all really building up. Luke's being shot at by stormtroopers, and he's captured by them by the end of this. And Carbon is kind of like General Grievous. He's really good with lightsabers, but against a Force user, that doesn't really mean anything. Like, the fact that you can use a lightsaber, the fact that you're a good swordsman, means nothing about how good you are with the skill of the Force. It's just, that they complement each other because they're more elegant weapons, more tactile weapons, as opposed to random and crazy like a blaster. I always really like that. So it's all kind of convening around the Jedi Temple, and Luke walked in there and he heard Kenobi's ghost. And Vader walked in there, and I'm pretty sure these are all Qui-Gon quotes. I'll read them out loud, and someone correct me if I'm wrong about any of these. Anakin, I have encountered a virgins in the Force. He is the chosen one. He will bring balance. Dreams pass in time. Be mindful of your thoughts. They'll betray you. You have become the very thing you swore to destroy. Nah, maybe it's a mix of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan quotes. Or maybe it is all Obi-Wan. I'm not sure. Prequels, no real need to watch them now that we have episode 7. So Carbon's whole thing is to, kill Vader and take his place at the Emperor's side, and he planned to do that by capturing Luke Skywalker and defeating Darth Vader, beating Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker and defeating him and revealing his subterfuge. And meanwhile, the Wookiees are fighting, and that's really cool. And Chewbacca actually gets beat, and Han Solo's taken out. And Leia is revealed at the end to be pointing a gun at Vader and Carbon, waiting to see who wins, it seems. So yeah. Really strong stuff. I can not wait until this story arc is done, because I think I'm gonna, read through all of it again in one sitting, because I think it'll be even stronger then. It's weird because this issue is much more balanced than the other one was. But the Darth Vader comic book had more to do with the Star Wars character, and this one has a lot more to do with Darth Vader than the Darth Vader book had. So it's just kind of like a funny thing. I don't know. I guess that works because their only other option, I guess, would be to, pause production, if you will, on the Star Wars and Darth Vader book, and instead to just do a 6-part Vader Down story arc that affects both books, which I guess would make more sense. It's just a little disjointing to be reading the Star Wars title and to have so much time devoted to Darth Vader, and to also be reading the Darth Vader time and have so much time devoted to all the other Star Wars characters. So besides that, it is just all one big story, so it really should be a Vader Down book. It's just we only got one issue of Vader Down, and the rest is going on between these other books. So it's just a little disjointed. Otherwise, I really don't have any problem with it. Some weeks there's just not as much to say about it for obvious reasons of it being, like a really action-driven story, and so there's just a lot of action going on. There's not much plot here. It's all kind of just going to hell in a handbasket every other issue, so. What can you do? But yeah, really enjoyed the hell out of this. Speaking of Star Wars, and since I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, if you couldn't tell, Star Wars Obi-Wan and Anakin. Jid 2012 on Twitter. 2012 or 2021? You know who you are. He asked me to pick this up. I'm gonna pick up the second issue, but I'm not sure how much of it I'll go for after that. I'm not sure if this is like limited or if it's an ongoing. But basically, this takes place between episodes 1 and 2, and it's just Obi-Wan training Anakin. And so, you have the Clone Wars Anakin from the 3D cartoon, and him I actually really do like. It was a really smart move, giving him a Padawan of his own, because it just forced him to take more responsibility. And it actually kind of makes, by the time you get to the end of the Clone Wars, it kind of makes his fall to the dark side make just a little more sense. It's a little easier to swallow. In this, we have young Anakin before Clone Wars, obviously. Not Jake Lloyd Anakin, but not Hayden Christensen Anakin. So we've got somewhere between two entirely different types of intolerable. But what I like about what every other writer does with Anakin, as opposed to George Lucas, is we have that kind of headstrong thing. There's this cool scene in the Jedi Temple where Anakin is going through some lightsaber training against a, I guess they call it, what do they call it? A holo droid? A training droid. He's doing lightsaber training against a droid, and then he sees that Windu, Obi-Wan, and Palpatine are watching him, so he flips a little switch, and the droid suddenly becomes Darth Maul, basically, like a hollow image Darth Maul. And Danny's into my Lego shelf. And Anakin is showing off, and he completely destroys the training bot. And Palpatine, of course, is impressive. And then you get this interesting scene where two of the Padawans have this neat little exchange. He may be good with a lightsaber, but that doesn't mean he'll make a good Jedi. No, after all, he's just a slave to his emotions. It's obvious. Exactly. Just a slave. And he hears that, takes their lightsabers, force grabs their lightsabers, and points them at them, and says, "Tell me, what emotion are you feeling right now?" And that's when Obi-Wan drops down, and Anakin turns off the lightsabers and says, "I didn't mean to frighten you. You're right. I do need better control of my emotions. Please accept my apologies." "You, of course, forget it," is what they say to him. Oddly enough, one of these students kind of looks like John Jones, Martian Manhunter. What do you think? Green guy there? Kind of John Jones looking? And then Palpatine and Windu have an exchange. "It seems young Skywalker's training is far from complete. His education is complicated. He came to us later than we would ordinarily have liked. Obi-Wan took on an extremely difficult task when he accepted Anakin as his Padawan." Palpatine says, "Send him to me. I may be able to help. It may not look like it, but I was once his age, and I feel a special connection to the boy after his assistance with the Naboo blockade some years ago. Thank you, Chancellor, but I am sure Obi-Wan has it handled. While young Skywalker is a Jedi, is he not? The Jedi are under the Senate's jurisdiction, and as I am the Chancellor of the Senate..." Of course, Chancellor. And so that's like the seeds of the relationship between Anakin and Palpatine that we're only really told exists in episode 3. So yeah. And then the rest of this is what's making me go, like, if it were all just that, just Palpatine in the background and like Obi-Wan trying to train him, but Palpatine kind of like, I don't want to say negating his training, but kind of just undercutting it a little bit. Every so often, just like Anakin goes to Palpatine to talk about things, and like he says, "Well, Obi-Wan says this," and Palpatine just thought he was going, "Oh, well, of course Obi-Wan would say that." But in reality, these are the kinds of things you have to deal with. And so just kind of like, not directly contradicting, but just subtly undercutting and demeaning Obi-Wan's training. I'd read the hell out of that. But what we're mostly going to get from the look of this is Obi-Wan and Anakin kind of going on space adventures and stuff. Which, I mean, I've got the Clone Wars show for that. And so I don't really need to read much else beyond that. But that's why I'm going to pick up a second issue. If there's this Palpatine scene in the second issue as good as this first issue, I may pick up the book. If I like where the rest of the story is going enough, and there's that good scene, then I'll pick up the book. But right now, I'm just kind of like, the main story doesn't seem to be bad. I mean, it's certainly giving not so subtle hints about Anakin's political views. But again, I'm too in love with Palpatine's subtle little shit. He's easily the best part of all the prequel films. So yeah, that's. I'm 50-50 on that one right now. Let's go ahead and move on. Action Comics number 48. This is tying in with the whole Savage Dawn thing. And unfortunately, I have no interest in that. Like, Vandal Savage is cool and everything, and I get that part of all of that's been built into what's going on with this, and like all the other Action Comics stuff has been built into this and whatnot. I don't particularly care. It's too big a story, and I want some more intimate Superman stuff. Just some lower scale stuff, and it's another world invasion, and I just don't have the context for whatever is going on before this, because we just ended the stuff with Wrath, and now it's next issue, there's all this shit with Vandal Savage going down. And, I'm sure Superman or one of the other books is what's led up to this side of the story. it's just not what I want to be reading. So I'm really hoping that they finish that in 1 or 2 story arcs and don't give Superman all his powers back, but I fear that's what's going to happen. I'd like him to stay depowered and just kind of doing his thing for a little while longer. Also, Adam in this looks way too much like Ant-Man. I don't like that costume design. The helmet makes it look way too much like Ant-Man. It's the tubes. It's the bottom of the mask. So yeah, I'm of different minds on this, but yeah, I think I'm good. I hope it improves, because I really, really liked where the Wrath stuff ended up at. Again, I'm just hoping for a smaller scale story. So maybe I'll get lucky. They'll wrap all this Savage Dawn stuff up in all the other books with Superman in it before the next issue of Action Comics, and they won't restore his powers, and we'll get just some more of, like, low-powered Superman, Fleischer-era Superman. That'd be cool. He does wear the, they call it a derivative of the Metallo armor. It's somehow powered by kryptonite, and it's killing him slowly, but it's giving him more of his old power set back, so that's kind of cool. Oh well. Hopefully it works out. Just for my own sake there. Editing is hard. Batman Beyond number 8. This is an interesting turn to take it. Max has taken the Green Lantern... No, Matt has taken the Green Lantern ring and headed to Metropolis. Terry is trying to track him down. Meanwhile, since the apocalypse has just ended, people are flocking to Gotham because they hear it's the one safe haven, and that's causing, a huge problem. And it's kind of a poignant thing. What do we do with refugees? Do we let them in and let it cause potentially more problems, or do we keep them out, and even though it's not the humane thing to do? Also, this was ridiculously funny, and I really liked it. There's a TARDIS. This is like a flashback to the whole Brother Eye invasion and everything, and there's a TARDIS. It's in London, and there's a TARDIS. Did I mention that it's a TARDIS? Oh yeah, so it's just it's got a very poignant kind of backdrop to it. I'm not sure how much of that is intentional. I have to assume it's at least slightly intentional. To the whole refugee situation going on in the world right now. But it's not like making a decision, at least not yet. And so Tim gets tipped off of where to go find Matt. So Matt's heading to Metropolis to go to the JLA tower. He's being tracked by these 3, whoever the hell they are. Darkseid minions, maybe? I don't know. He's being tracked by them. And yeah. So everyone's after Terry McGinnis' little brother now, I guess. Whatever. It's cool. I'm enjoying it slightly more than the Brother Eye stuff. Right now it's just mediocre. The Brother Eye stuff was just tedious and exhausting to get through. So I'm hoping that this will start to pick up and be good like the Batman Beyond book was. Because, that's the thing. The Batman Beyond book, it didn't end on a high note or anything, but it was better than this. It's significantly better than this. Even the last story arc was significantly better than this. At least so far. I don't want to be mean, but I'm really not caring for this. It's not just that it's not Terry McGinnis. It's just everything else has been totally affected by the whole Brother Eye story arc that I'm like, can we just move past that and get back to Batman Beyond? It's like Batman Beyond, but in like post-apocalyptic world, and that could be fine. But it just needs to feel more like Batman Beyond, and right now it doesn't. So yeah. I'm taking a drink every other book. DC Comics Bombshells number 8. So now we're getting more of the Wonder Woman and Supergirl Stargirl stuff. They're the only two that really come on here. Mira's stuff is also really tied to Supergirl Stargirl right now too, so that's really good. And we just have the Tenebrae. Tenebrae? Tenebrae. So there you go. They are like these Nazi zombie things on the rise in the Third Reich, and they're taking over all the dead. And it's causing problems. Yeah. We also find out that... God, how do you say her name? Courtney? Courtney Elizabeth Whitmore. God damn it. Where's her other name? Courtney. Courtney? Shit, where's her fucking name? Courtney, Kortni, and it's supposed to be pronounced like Courtney, but with a Russian accent. We find out her biological father is a English industrialist, but he's kind of an ass. And he's like kind of sexist. He's like, "Oh, my little girl won't be fighting Nazis, because manly 50s-ness." And that's interesting. Kara goes to help Mira fight off Nazis at the bottom of the sea. Nazi zombies at the bottom of the sea. And Wonder Woman's dealing with Nazi zombies as well. So there's a lot more going on in this issue. There's a lot more plot development in this issue, which we really needed, because it was starting to get kind of tedious to go back and forth between everybody. But as much as I've been asking for more plot development from these main story arcs, I think the thing I liked the most was a really short moment that happened toward the beginning of the book with Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. And I'm not going to sing it, but it is in a tune. So like they're running away from explosions after escaping from American prison camp. Military prison camp. And Steve, going through PTSD, is getting freaked out by all the grenades and explosions around him because they're still in a war zone. And he says, "I can't go on like this, Diane. I can't. You speak of healing life ahead, but there isn't any. Every hour is a waking nightmare. Landmines, gunfire, sirens, and screams. I'm a dead man. I don't change. I don't walk in circles, I walk in circles, think in circles, riding on my feet, a dead man, a dead man. I'm dragging you down with me." And then she says, "Steve Trevor, shh. Be still, be soft, the moon is high, the tide rolls in, the waves roll by. The gulls don't cry, the winds don't shout, the waves roll on, the tide rolls out. All things yield and all things bend, all things in life that one day..." And then he says, "Thank you." And so she sings this like really, really beautiful, sweet kind of song to calm him down and help him out. And just, it's the best moment in the book. Once again, what's amazing about this book, and it's hit and miss, but what's amazing about this book is it just sounds like it's going to be kind of a wacky, cool, fun premise, but it's also really good at times. really the only thing I can think to compare it to is Justice League New Frontier. So if you enjoyed that, you should be picking up DC Comics Bombshells, because it's the exact same type of thing. Only thing I really, really want, and I know I've been complaining about too many characters, only thing I really, really want is for Carol Ferris, Star Sapphire, to come in and to give her kind of like a wacky 60s-ish, or not 60s, I guess they were doing some sci-fi in the 40s. 40s sci-fi outfit-inspired costume with the ring. That'd be neat. But otherwise, I'm really enjoying this book. Even if it takes a while and is kind of meandering at times. Every other book. Alright, Doctor Who, the 10th Doctor, Year 2, Number 4. Because, once again, they're so good at titles. This is kind of focusing on a Neanderthal, and his people are being hunted by what he calls sky hunters. They're flying saucers, basically. Finds Gabby and the Doctor. The Doctor's been injured because of a fall. Takes him, heals the Doctor. And then they go to start finding the source of the thing. Then they're kidnapped. And Gabby is separated from the two of them. And is at the mercy of these people who are not the aliens that are abducting the cavemen. So she's been separated from the Doctor. They're doing that a little too much, but okay. And the Doctor is just kind of impressed with Munumith is the name of the Neanderthal. He's a cave painter, and he's trying his best to depict the flying saucers that are taking people. So once again, there's a real focus on art in this book, and that was really cool. But I think the most interesting thing of this issue has to be Gabby discussing how she feels sympathy for Munumith and his people, but they're Neanderthals. And her people, us, Homo sapiens, are responsible for them dying off. And so she has a neat back and forth with the Doctor about how, like, the nature of time travel is these people are already gone. You know, you are all perpetually moving through a graveyard kind of thing. I don't know. I liked that conversation. It did seem to kind of come out of nowhere. I don't like using that word Neanderthal. He's human like me, but it's like meeting a distant relative. I know him, but I don't. Okay, he smells a bit, but the way he speaks, it's musical. The way he moves, there's small cognitive differences. They don't survive us, do they? We drive them to extinction, me, sapiens. Honestly, I don't know. It didn't happen suddenly. It occurred slowly over thousands of years. In the end, I think they just got out-competed by your lot. You can overtake evolution by rapidly modifying yourselves in the way you think. Shared myth and collective action is what allows you such fast rates of development. Right, that and aggression. That's sapiens. Great advantage. My lot and a whole bunch of other species out there in the cosmos, right? Gabby, that's only a small part of the story. Besides, human evolution was influenced by several alien species. The Jagaroth, the Findal, the Sirens. Doctor, when you go on about how great humanity's potential is, what you really mean is how great Homo sapiens' potential is. How do you explain Munumith? The river people we saw were sapiens. Munumith's a shaman, trusted by all local clans, whether Neanderthal or Mylot. Probably because, as well as being a hunter and an artist, a skilled communicator, he's a doctor, the local doctor, you might say. Time travel, it gets to you sometimes. It already happened. Yeah, right, sorry. But did it? Couldn't we? And then gets interrupted. I don't know. I've been kind of disappointed in this book overall lately. There have been good issues here and there. Like, I really like that whole song people storyline and stuff, but this is, like, that conversation's really interesting, and I'm hoping to see this go places. I do like the idea of the Doctor visiting prehistory, because I don't think we've seen them do that since the very first Doctor Who story arc. I don't think we've seen him do that since, so it'd be nice to see more prehistory stuff. Again, one thing I've wanted with the Doctor for a long time, and I don't know how often we'll get it or if it'll ever happen again, is I just want the Doctor to go to the past and have it just be something related to the past. No aliens. It doesn't always need to be aliens. That would be a nice change of pace, but I doubt it'll happen. We'll see. Doop-a-doop-doo. Okay. Grant Morrison's 18 Days, number 7. So we get 2 stories in this one. The main story is, what's his face? Yuddish, the main character Yuddish, who's like on the good side of the war and all that stuff, is having a lot of doubts about whether or not to continue the war because 1 million men died on the first day, if it's the right thing to do because, they're only doing it for his birthright, his honor. And so maybe he should have just let his rival have his throne and stuff, and then none of these men would have to die. And so he's consulting with Krishna about whether or not he should give that up, and Krishna tells him, all the suffering you're seeing now, and as heavy as it weighs on your soul, would be light as a feather compared to if you let your rival have the throne and rule. There's like a really neat comparison. Whether the world will see a great dynasty of kings establish a golden age of peace and prosperity for generations to come, or if it will be ruled by a tyrannical hand whose boot heel grinds away at man's will and freedom forever, fate has chosen you and your brothers to stand upon the crack of the ages and fight for the children of eternity. It's just cool. But no, we're given like this really interesting panel that kind of compares those two worlds. The bottom one here, which is the evil tyrannical version, has a very similar look to Rock of Ages, or you look at the Obey sign and it makes me think of John Carpenter's They Live. And up here it's like kind of your typical futuristic paradise where technology and everyone's assumably happy. And then the B story arc, or the B story we get is about a queen who was born to be a tool to destroy her father's political rivals by marrying her father's rival and destroying his house from within, and yada yada yada. And it's also about how she pissed off Krana, they said. Krana, who's like a low-born super warrior. How she pissed him off and how he would have his revenge on her for doing so. But it does end with a really cool one. With a really cool line from her. I was bred perfect. I could have been a super warrior. I could have been out there winning their battles. But this is a world of men. One day an age will come when that changes, and then, I promise you, Dupada will come again, and all stories will change forever. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting little B story. I'm really liking this book a lot. Again, I apologize to anyone if it's like confusing as shit to hear me talk about it. but it's got that Game of Thrones thing where it's not really possible to talk around. Everything's so interconnected that you kind of have to just talk about it, and how you're feeling about the different things that are going on. Yeah, like I said, it's really complex. It's complex, and I apologize for anyone who feels I'm butchering the names. They're really complicated names. That's all I can really say. But yeah, still enjoying the hell out of this. It's really neat, and it's kind of cool to see an alternative thing. It's enjoyable. I recommend it. Okay, and the final book we have is Wonder Woman number 47. Enter the Cheetah. Or the Cheetah Strikes, my bad. I suppose the alternate title for this could be Exposition the Book. And that's fine. They seem to be trying to take a break every so often and just, like, after every story arc, just kind of unload everything so people can pick up that issue and not feel completely lost. And that's a pretty smart thing to do. So Cheetah's on Paradise Island after some kind of stone that's kept the Amazons young. Wonder Woman's in her original New 52 outfit. I don't know why. Which is weird because just as all the other books she's appearing in finally start to get in her new costume, now she's in the old one. What else is going on? So Cheetah's on the island. Wonder Woman goes to track her down before she can get to the stone. She comes across the last surviving male Amazon, who has lost an eye and an arm because of Donna Troy's attacks. It's a shitstorm. And she promises to find a way to make it up to him, but right now she has to go deal with Cheetah. So she goes after Cheetah. They fight briefly. Cheetah escapes momentarily and runs into the temple where the stone is, and Wonder Woman wants to run after her. But some vines stop her, and Wonder Woman sees her mother, who tells her that because she's the god of war, she's not allowed to enter another god's temple because they would find it highly offensive, and they would consider it a feud. And Wonder Woman's like, no, you don't understand. Hera would be forgiving of me. We're friends. And she says, her temporal is sacred ground she will not overlook. Hera has been a god for eons and your friend for only a short while, is her mother's reply to that. So she's still receiving counsel from mom, which I like. And so Cheetah walks out with the stone and is planning to become immortal because of it. But then she slowly starts to lose her cheetah-ness, and Wonder Woman didn't follow her into the temple as her mother advised. And so Cheetah's slowly starting to lose all her cheetah-ness, and Wonder Woman says, the power in that stone was a gift from the goddess Hera to the first queen of the Amazons. It looks like your god, Urzartaragala, that name, is not willing to share you with another. You are going to have to choose immortality as Barbara or the powers of the cheetah. And so Barbara is slowly losing all of her power, and she throws the stone away and then escapes back into the jungle, and that's the end of the issue. And then we're left with next issue, A Beautiful Poison. There's a bat signal kind of vaguely behind the next. So that means it's going to be a Poison Ivy crossover, which is kind of fun because we had that a couple months ago with the Sensation Comics featuring Wonder Woman books. So I'm excited to see that. Poison Ivy and Wonder Woman are kind of like very, very different views of feminism expressed, and so that'll be really interesting. Poison Ivy's kind of like a extremist, non-equality based view of feminism that's ultimately just as destructive as patriarchy. And Wonder Woman's, of course, much more level-headed. Yes, freedom and liberation, but for everyone, not freedom and liberation for women at the price of the patriarchy. We don't need either of those things. We don't need one or the other. We need to be able to maintain a healthy society, but make sure that it's truly a fair and healthy society. So that's Wonder Woman's whole thing is true equality in feminism, whereas Poison Ivy's thing, like her viewpoint's obviously very besides the if you ignore the elemental, the eco terrorist angle, her expression of feminism is very female dominant. And Wonder Woman started out that way, but she's definitely moved over time toward more of a general equality is better kind of viewpoint. Marsden obviously was a female superiorist, so it'll be interesting to see that dynamic tackled, because that certainly is in Wonder Woman's history, and most people will have Wonder Woman start out thinking that way, but then come to a sense of equality throughout, in different origin things. So, I don't know, that should be interesting. This was just kind of like a fun issue. I'm glad to finally see Wonder Woman's classic rogues gallery making a comeback for at least one issue. Again, I think a better bridge would have been Cersei, since she's both like a classic Wonder Woman character, but also or Wonder Woman villain, but also an actual Greek myth character. So that would have worked as a better transition character. But no, I'm still excited to see this. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm Aquaman, but twice as useless. I hope you all enjoyed that very much. That'll be the end of this week's Comic Reviews. I promise I'll get to 0 Hour eventually. I've not wanted to read at work lately. So I'll get, and that's usually when I read my trades, is when I get done with stuff at the station. But I promise I'll get to it eventually. I mean, I've had pretty busy weeks lately, with, one exception. So I feel like there's been enough content, but I can get more. I should be doing a trade on a regular basis, and it's been a couple weeks since I've done a trade. So I promise I will get to it. Green Lantern Godhead is also coming up, and I'm on the lookout for other stuff people have requested. Someone left a request for Star Wars Shattered Empire. I was going to get it this week. Unfortunately, my shop was just out. I'll pick up an issue when I see it and read at least one issue of it. But yeah, whenever I get around to that, I promise I will do it. If you have any suggestions for ongoing series you'd like me to pick up an issue of and give my thoughts on, please let me know in the comments below. If I like it enough, I will add it to my pull list. Or if you have any suggestions for trades or graphic novels that I should check out, please leave them in the comments below too. I will do my very best to get a hold of them. Until next time, everyone, thank you very much for watching.